Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching the news live, and welcome to this English news edition. Coming up next. According to newly elected Ahmed Yahya, in its closing ceremony, the R&D Extraordinary Congress might turn into an ordinary Congress. Plus, we will shed light in our news bulletin on the importance of Bac exam for Algerian families that creates lots of pressure on both parents and students. And later on in our news program, an Egyptian court sentences 6 people to death, including 2 Al Jazeera journalists who were accused of leaking state secrets to Qatar. Hello there again, and thanks for joining us. First, in our top stories, newly elected at the head of the country's second largest party, the R&D, Ahmed Yahya reiterated his party's support for the President of the Republic, Abdelaziz Bouteflika, whose congratulatory letter to him after he was elected as the party's new Secretary General was highly praised during the closing ceremony of the R&D Extraordinary Congress. Yahya hailed the democratic path the party is taking by restoring to the ballot in electing its new leader. Lamia Ashush for more details.
The National Democratic Rally R&D concluded its extraordinary Congress, with the participants wanted to turn it into an ordinary Fifth Congress. It wrapped up with the reading of the political list and the economic and social regulations, as well as the declaration of the full and unwavering support for the president and the government. Ahmed Yahya said that his party is devoted to the culture of democracy by resorting to the ballot to elect its new Secretary General, noting that transforming the Extraordinary Congress into an ordinary Fifth Congress will allow the party to prepare for future political events.
Including the ballot in this Congress to elect the Secretary General is a normal thing. The merit is due to my brother Bulletin, who allowed us to have 2 candidates and vote for him. Make this Congress the 5th Ordinary Congress in order to liberate the party for 5 years. For it to participate with other parties, we have local and legislative elections in 2017. At the same time, the R&D will still be generating ideas and will be present on the ground with the citizens in villages and cities and be active in locally and nationally elected bodies in order for us to be a real partner in the political life.
Addressing the R&D party's newly formed reform movement that filed a lawsuit against Ahmed Yahya, the letter said that the Council of State ruled in favor of the holding of the Congress, which his party rivals deemed unlawful.
This Congress is the result of the triumph of truth and law in a state ruled by law and truth. There is something that was not mediatized on Wednesday. The R&D party stood in front of the State's Council because our members who protested filed a lawsuit to annul the Congress. Thanks to God and justice, we were given our rights.
The National Democratic Rally leader Ahmed Yahya reiterated his party's full support for President Bouteflika, adding at the same time that this by no means indicates any feud with the opposition.
وأن التجمع الوطني الديمقراطي سيبقى بجنب السيد رئيس الجمهورية الأخ المجاهد عبد العزيز بوتفليقة وأكدتها.
The R&D party will stand by President Abdelaziz Bouteflika, but certain people consider this complex. To be a government party, we maintain our position with pride, and we do not want any feud with the opposition, God forbid. But these are the rules of democracy. There is a majority and opposition.
Although careful not to create any friction with the opposition, Yahya nevertheless was sure to criticize its rhetoric in describing the status quo.
Not to demean the opposition, but sometimes I notice that their speech contains questions about where the money went, government is going to collapse, there will be a social explosion. This is their speech. When we say we are pro-government and pro-unions, we serve the country on the economic and social fronts. Our role is to primarily convince society that reforms are inevitable.
Newly elected at the head of the country's second largest party, Ahmed Yahya praised the RND, saying that since its creation, it has contributed to saving Algeria during the crisis that lasted for more than a decade, in a clear assertion that the RND is and will always be one of the main political players in Algeria.
The works of the 9th Spring University of Society Movement for Peace Party were launched this year from the southern province of Bashar. During the works of the leader of MSP Party, Mr. Abdelrazak Mokri, stressed the downright necessity as on a smooth, peaceful democratic transition through a general consensus. Karim Fazakri.
During the works of the 9th Spring University in the southern province of Bashar, the leader of MSP Party, Mr. Abdelrazak Mokri, insisted on the need for peaceful transition of power without resorting to conflict and election fraud. The leader of Movement of Society for Peace went on and on, urging the need to fight corruption which spread in the country and touched many important economic institutions. We should do just like many other countries around the world. They chose a smooth democratic transition based on consensus. We need to come to an agreement on how we are going to reconstruct our country. We're not going to bicker about the past. We shouldn't trap one another. We should all work hand in hand and make a democratic transition. Mokri warned those who are trying to challenge Algerians and stressed they were all aware of the political scene. This was a coded reference to the former energy minister, Shakib Khalil. We need to fight and eradicate corruption. If we're not able to eradicate it completely, we could at least minimize it so as these people wouldn't bully us, challenge us, wouldn't keep saying I take and breaks on Atrak and other institutions and then come back to defend their pure image and claim to be saints. Don't challenge us. Addressing his party activists in a speech, Mokri highlighted the necessity of justice and parliament independence and get them all out of political conflicts.
فحينما يصبح البرلمان ما عنده حتى قيمة بسبب التزوير الانتخابي.
When the parliament becomes insignificant and without any value because of election frauds, and when the justice becomes dependent on higher wills, and when the verdicts come via phone before the hearings even, when the justice system is reliant on the power of the few, the state is completely gone.
حينما يصبح القضاء غير مستقل.
In an economic context marked by recession, Algerian people got fed up with both pro-government and opposition political parties, being well aware that their country is in a security-sensible situation and corruption spread everywhere now. Algerians need someone to work for the country at least a bit so as some hope is restored. However, politics doesn't put food on their tables.
Only a few days before what is defined by the Algerian society as a decisive exam, the baccalaureate exam is the source of pressure for many students because their parents want them to get it at any cost, regardless of grades or the professional career it's going to get them. Karim Fazakri again.
Baccalaureate exam is considered one of the most important ones in the Algerian society. Everybody keeps talking about it at every occasion. This kind of exams is described very normal and usual test. However, for Algerians, it's their success pass. The bac in Algeria is like a passport for other studies. In other countries, the success rate is high, almost 100%. In Algeria, it's not the case. There is a selection to do. For this reason, the bac exam is the one that draws the future of our children.
Et en plus, il trace l'avenir de nos enfants.
The bac is everything. If you don't have it, you have nothing. The baccalaureate opens so many doors. I have two nephews. One got the baccalaureate and the other didn't. One is studying in Paris and the other is working as a builder. Thus, you conclude that it's vital. I tell you why. It's because the level has fallen sharply. The great importance which the baccalaureate certificate has for Algerian families is interpreted by psychologists as parents wait to catch up with their previous failure in life. So they put pressure on their children to obtain bac certificate, which has become a social phenomenon more than an educational purpose. The baccalaureate has become a social fever more than an educational purpose nowadays, and especially in the last 10 days. It's as if the Algerian society or the Algerian family wants their children only to get the certificate, regardless, firstly, the grades and the major the students is going to choose. It's as if they are looking for prestige. At least they get to brag about it before others. Parents need to manage the professional career of their children. They are trying to fulfill their dreams through their children. The bac is decisive for students' final educational destination. It determines their future career and defines their future as a whole. Nevertheless, the students shouldn't go under pressure by their parents. After all, it's just an exam.
The study of the diversification of national economy conducted by the FCE Business Forum identified the digital technologies amongst the three priority sectors is or in an emergence plan for Algerian economy. Indeed, the Algerian's talent is out there to discover. Young Algerians occupy prominent posts on the West global technological hubs, mainly California's Silicon Valley. To this effect, the FCE Forum brought together Algerian digital sector leaders to raise awareness the needs of digital entrepreneurship in Algeria in the second edition of the Oran, Algeria, Silicon Valley conference appropriately held in the western province of Oran. Let's have a listen.
The digital sector is part of the 5 strategic axes included in the government's program. Also, new technologies are one of the less expensive boosters that we can rapidly mobilize to accelerate economic reforms, diversify our economy, and create a new economic model which our country needs.
Et pour faire émerger un nouveau modèle économique, un des défis.
One of the challenges that our country must undertake in the scope of this economic transition and diversification is the creation of more enterprises. Our country today barely has 800,000 enterprises and must reach 2 million enterprises if it wants to really diversify its economy. In Algeria, there is a ratio of 20 companies for 1,000 citizens. Our neighbors reached 50, and developed countries have surpassed 100 companies. We have great potential to create enterprises, especially by young students. But our country holds a digital sector human resources record compared to all our neighbors. But unfortunately, they are very well exported abroad. It's time to mobilize our resources and create an economic system to make them stay.
Mais surtout des entreprises créées par des jeunes diplômés de notre université. Tout d'abord, du point de vue de la sphère publique.
In the public sphere, digital technologies are a great way to evolve the organization and global quality of public service, and at the same time, drastically reduce public spending. That's why digital technologies must be at the core of structural reforms that our country must conduct in the next coming months. We can bypass bureaucracy, which causes lots of problems for companies, through a generalized digitalization.
Problème aujourd'hui à l'entreprise à travers une numérisation généralisée.
Rappelons-le, donc Oran compte 3 universités.
Oran has 3 universities, a polytechnic school, and 3 research centers, thus economic and scientific potentials that would bring together state institutions and national or international economic operators with projects, making this province a technological and digital pole.
Et faire de cette wilaya
In other national news, a special weather bulletin released by Meteorological Services warned of continued weather turbulences in the east of the country. Heavy rain will be recorded starting from today morning until 9 p.m. Furthermore, the concerned national provinces are Borj Bouariri, Bjaya, Stif, Skikda, Jijel, Annaba, Taraf, Mila, Constantine, Ombwaqi, Batna, Khanshla, Suqahras, Galma and Bissa. The weather bulletin pointed out that the amount of rainfall may reach up to 40 millimeters locally and predicted strong winds and thunders. Sunday, May the 8th, Algeria will commemorate the massacres perpetrated by the French colonial in the wake of its victory over Nazism and liberation of Paris. 71 years after the massacres of the Algerian population who peacefully claimed the recovery of their sovereignty, the Algerians will pay tribute to the memory of thousands of victims of an unprecedented suppression. The repressive practices of the colonial war machine were behind the death on May the 8, 1945 of 45,000 Algerians, mainly in Stif, Galma and Kharrada. And according to the Algerian Astronomy Research Center of Astrophysics and Geophysics, the astronomical phenomenon of planet Mercury transit will happen next Monday, May the 9th, and will be visible in Algeria for nearly 8 hours from noon to sunset. As explained by Algeria's Astronomy Research Center of Astrophysics and Geophysics, this rare phenomenon will occur when the planet Mercury will be between the Earth and the Sun. It will be visible as a black dot crossing the solar disk.
On May 9th, planet Mercury will trace its moving shadow on the Sun, passing between the luminary and the Earth. For several hours, some lucky areas of our planet may enjoy the Mercury show, which will appear as a small black disk moving across the Sun. Like all early stages of eclipse, observers will feel that this black round spot will start to nibble the star before crossing slowly. This is called the transit of a planet. Like all rare astronomical phenomena, it will arouse an immense curiosity. Algerians are one of the lucky ones to witness such phenomena. For once, young Algerians will live a privileged moment because the technology and science that explain a lot of shadow zones away from obscurantism. They also provide an extraordinary view of their spatial environment as never seen before. The National Astronomy, Physics and Physiology Center has stressed that this rare phenomenon will occur at 12 a.m. lasting until sunset, adding that the planet Mercury is significantly small compared to Earth, and to avoid any tragedy, people, especially the most daring and unconscious, are reminded to never look at the Sun to avoid very serious damages. The usual eclipse glasses are not suitable because the planet is too small-sized. Specialists recommend amateur astronomer glasses and telescope, which have appropriate sunscreens.
Moving on to world developments, an Egyptian court on Saturday sentenced 6 people to death, including 2 of Al Jazeera journalists who are accused of leaking state secrets to Qatar. The case of jailed former President Mohamed Morsi, who is also charged for espionage for Qatar, was, however, adjourned. Labour's Sadiq Khan has vowed to do all in his power to make London better, as he was sworn in as the new mayor. Referring to his council estate roots, Mr. Khan, the city's first Muslim mayor, said he wanted all Londoners to have the same opportunities he has had. It comes as Defence Secretary Michael Fallon defended Conservative Zach Goldsmith's campaign, describing it as the rough and tumble of politics. The much criticised campaign questioned Mr. Khan's alleged links to extremists. Officials in Canada say the huge wildfire, which has devastated the oil town of Fort McMurray in Alberta, could double in size over the next 24 hours. The fire currently covers an area larger than New York City and is being fanned by winds and feeding on dry vegetation. The flames are now moving away from the town, most of whose inhabitants have now reached safety. More than 80,000 people were evacuated from the city earlier this week. And now to some high-tech news, ladies and gentlemen. Brace yourselves, for your own personal chef is at the door. UK company Mulay Robotics has revealed the first version of Robot Chef that would be released in 2017. However, the question is this good for housewives or not? Karim Fasakri answers.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own personal chef? Are you tired of cooking for your husband and children? Mulay Robotics is releasing the world's first robot kitchen in 2017. Cooking will be as easy as pulling up a recipe and sitting back and watching a pair of robotic arms do all the work. Hold on a minute. Does this mean more and more guys will stop getting married? Uh-oh. Does this mean that women have no longer that shortcut to a man's heart? Yes, all Obviously, Molly Robotics wants you to stop cooking. UK company has unveiled what it claims is the world's first robot chef. Here's how it works. The kitchen will come complete with a pair of robot arms, oven, a shelf for holding food and utensils, and a touchscreen. The robot arms will retract when not in use. Users can operate the kitchen with a smartphone or via the included touchscreen. Simply pull up a recipe on either platform and have the Molly robot do the rest of the work.
When I stopped thinking about how to create some kind of universal cooking device, because everybody like eating, but nobody like eating same food same time. So they want to have a lot of options, unlimited number of options. Depends how you feel today and what you want today. And that's why we create this concept, this is a machine which is not making any decision. It's transferring the skills, the human IP, from one people to your home.
Users can choose from a selection of included recipes which the robot knows how to cook because a chef prepared it wearing special gloves while being filmed by 3D motion capture technology. In doing so, the robot knows how to cook the recipe exactly like the human that first demonstrated it. The kitchen will come with a protective screen to ensure safety. The robot will also use a food processor instead of knives, so people aren't scared by a knife-wielding robot in their home. The robot kitchen will be priced at $75,000 when it first launches, but it is expected to drop down to around $3,500 in 4 to 5 years. The robot chef has at last come to life. Now, could this be good news or bad news? Time shall tell.
It's a good news so far, Karim. And finally, the hayek, a modest traditional outfit stemming from the depth of the Algerian heritage, is well preserved and represented in one of the few oldest remaining workshops that still maintain sewing this unique and crucial cultural heritage. Hints min ras.
While strolling around in the ancient Kasaba streets downtown Algiers, you can't help but notice women wearing an ivory white cloth called the hayek, a traditional outfit typically Algerian, worn by women of the past in the four corners of the country. Rafiqa, one of the most famous hayek sewers, told us more about its history.
In
the past, women wore only the hayek in the top half. And later, women started wearing the long hayek called al-ksa, made from pure cotton. And there's also al-marama hayek, called that way since it's made from silk.
The
hayek was only worn by women in the capital, but then became known all over the country, particularly in big Algerian cities.
The hayek highlights the Algerian women's modesty and decency, a traditional heritage that soon got forgotten, only remembered and worn on special occasions nowadays.
It's true, we live in a modern world, but our traditions are sacred. The hayek, even modernized, will be best worn simple and plain, just like our ancestors used to wear it. Today's women should preserve it. Brides should wear it on their wedding day instead of the barnous.
The hayek, like every other piece of Algerian traditional clothing, should be preserved for coming generations, since they are and will always be our most distinguished and unique pieces of heritage.
And now let's have a reminder of our main top stories. According to newly elected Ahmed Ouyahia in its closing ceremony, the R&D Extraordinary Congress might turn into an ordinary one. We have shed light in our news bulletin on the importance of back exam for Algerian families that creates lots of pressure on both parents and students. And an Egyptian court sentences 6 people to death, including 2 of Al Jazeera journalists who were accused of leaking state secrets to Qatar. The end of our English news edition, brought to you live from the news channel. For more news, visit our website and other social media networks. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.